At this place, in this time, just miles away from New York City, the residents decided to take the side of religion as opposed to the state.
People felt, this is a young man, he's got a family, he wasn't trying to harm anybody.
And some people didn't even know him, just came to give him support because they were believers too.
Matt is not a Christian, therefore he's not a good person, and Piskevich is a good person because he's a Christian.
I think the majority of the students didn't understand the real issue.
Kearney is a very diverse district. There's a lot of Hispanic students, there's a lot of first generation. It's a diverse district. But one way in which Kearney is not diverse is religiously.
A firestorm of controversy is brewing in the Kearney, New Jersey school district. It all started when Matthew LeClaire's teacher began preaching about God in class. Fearing that no one would believe him, Matthew recorded the teacher's comments.
He did everything in his power to make sure that you could go to heaven, so much so that he took your sin on his own body, suffered your pains for you, and he's saying, please accept and believe. You reject that, you belong in hell.
What followed has been a fierce debate not only on what the teacher said, but also over what Matthew did, which some say violated the teacher's rights.
A lot of people say that I'm a troublemaker. They say that, look at the pattern that this has been. He doesn't stand for the flag salute. He wears political buttons to school. Now he's done this to a teacher.
This is News 12 New Jersey, as local news gets.
Thanks for watching. I'm Janine Strafasi. Hudson County School Board has taken the first step toward banning its faculty from speaking about religious beliefs in school.
There's a lot of flap tonight over a student who secretly recorded a teacher who was doing more than teaching. He was preaching.
The issue of separation of church and state boils over tonight in a small New Jersey town. It all began with a recording a student made in history class.
His attorney told us tonight that you set him up.
I would never set any person up in any case. I did not make him say that if you don't believe in what he believes in, they belong in hell.
I'm very careful to follow the guidelines, and I stick to the curriculum, but I do think it's appropriate as it's related to the subject matter and if it's in response to a student's question.
Okay, maybe I should go back a little bit earlier. Back when I was in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, I was pretty much the loser, okay? Got kicked around, not really physically by a lot of students, although some, but, just more bullied on a lot. And I was able to work my way through that. 7th and 8th grade was a little bit better. Once I entered my freshman year, it was a little bit better with students, and then it was okay. It was kind of into the middle ground by that point. Ever since freshman year, actually, I decided to stop standing for the flag salute. I felt that it was just a conformity measure that made people feel like they were patriotic. I basically would sit because I felt like I was patriotic too.
I'm a Christian first and foremost. My value system is essentially God first, country, and family. As far as my patriotism goes, I do believe there is a biblical basis, because in Psalm chapter 33, verse 12, the Bible says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." Today is Memorial Day, and on Memorial Day we like to remember those that have given their lives for our liberties here in the United States. And what I like to do so let's take a moment to pray. I thank you so much, dear God, for those that have come before us, and not just us here, dear God, at this barbecue, but those in barbecues all across this great nation, dear God. And Lord, it's my prayer that it would please you to continue to bless the United States of America. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's eat, guys. Vamos comer.
In a toast to the haggis. To the haggis.
All the Scottish Catholics would join the Irish Club, and the Scottish Protestants would join the Scots Club. It was quite volatile at times. We also had an Ulster Club at one time, which was all Northern Ireland Protestants. But what's happening now is they're moving out, and we're getting a lot of Peruvians, Brazilians, Latinos. So it's the only town in America where you would find that people really care about religion.
People only saw what he was. He was this, good-looking teacher. He was a crew coach.
So if he may have broken a tiny little law here, so be it. It's a mistake and we move on from it. And I think that's the approach that a lot of people in this town take. And I don't necessarily blame them for that.
You never think of your school as being intolerant, I guess?
There are no Jews among the students. There's only a handful of Jewish teachers.
The LeClairs had hoped to resolve this matter without the need for litigation.
I was never called in for a discussion with the board, but during this ordeal I received 2 what are called rice letters explaining that at board meetings my termination could possibly be discussed.
The LeClairs filed a notice of claim, which is a necessary first step to their bringing a lawsuit against the school board. Thank you.
And that board meeting was pretty scary. People holding signs supporting Mr. Peskevich, thanking the board for doing their job.
And when I walked in there and saw 200 plus people with signs supporting Peskevich, supporting the board, that was a blessing. It really was, and it carried me through.
5 months ago, my former history teacher started preaching in class. I knew this was a violation, so I recorded him. I knew my classmates would be scared to speak out, so I had to.
David made crystal clear to everyone in that room that he was giving his opinion. He asked that if you don't want to go into this topic, we don't have to. And the class was unanimous that they wanted to press on.
This community is 89% Christian, no matter if they're Catholic, Baptist, Protestant, whatever it is. Mr. LeClair just said that he was said something about heaven and hell. If he is an atheist, he should not be concerned about hell and heaven. We are.
We are neighbors. Isn't it time we started acting like it? It is still not too late for the board and the school to sit down with us in good faith to resolve this. We urge you, please, do this without further delay.
First, the LeClairs chose to take on the teacher. Then it was the school district. And now it seems to be the entire community.
Matthew walks in schools, puts bumper stickers on the lockers stating his distaste and dislike for the president. He's told he must stop, and he complains that his freedom of speech is being violated. Matthew refuses to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. When people complain and say he should stand, he complains that his freedom of speech is being violated. Matthew is very passionate about freedom of speech. When he walks into a classroom and asks his teacher what his opinion is, and that teacher expresses his freedom of speech, then all of creation must stop. Everything must come to a halt because that freedom of speech has somehow damaged his little psyche. Mr. LeClair says he was preaching in school. If Mr. LeClair wants to hear preaching, we'll bring in a tape of Billy Sunday and we'll let him hear preaching. We encourage you, we stand behind the board, we appreciate your stance. We ask you not to be intimidated by the ACLU or any other legal organization. There are many Christians in this community who stand behind you.
This is a government institution paid for by taxpayers, not paid for by 86% of the population who happen to be Christians like us, okay? Matthew is right. You folks are right in your belief, but the way you're bringing it about is against the Constitution, and in my humble opinion, as an American and as a believer in the Constitution, if this goes to court, it will be struck down by a federal court and by the Supreme Court. Even Judge Thomas and Judge Scalia are going to shut this thing down. Sir. Well, at some point, this is all going to come out in court. If he has to go to court and you lose, you're going to look horrible. Enough said. I appreciate the chance to speak. God bless all of us. We all need help. We're all sinners, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me ask you a question. Would Jesus do what you're doing now? Would Jesus boo me? I don't think so.
I would like to know if the teacher knew you were taping him, or whether this was something that you did without letting him know.
He did not know about the recording. To record the class, I'd use this. Some days I would put it in my pocket. Some days I would put it in my sweater. Some days it would be in my backpack. It just, depended on where I was going to put it that day.
I was unaware that any of this was going on.
So why did you start to record your teacher?
Well, a lot of the comments that he was making during the first 2 days of class were extremely inappropriate.
Like what?
Well, there were some cases where he would go just into his religion, into his politics, and I had a feeling at this point that if I was to bring this to anybody's attention, such as the principal, that I wouldn't be believed, and indeed that's actually what happened.
We've used the word agents of the state. Teachers are employees of the state. And the student is a private citizen. I think the student has a right to hold the system accountable, and if the only way you can do it is privately tape recording it and holding that teacher accountable and the school system accountable, I'd say go for it.
He knew specifically not to object to the direction the debate was going, because otherwise it wouldn't be caught on tape.
There are people that are saying that I managed to get a voice translator or something, and I made all those things up.
A recording can be altered, a recording can be dubbed, and things are said that really weren't said in the classroom, so they're unreliable in today's technology.
It's like the things they come up with, it doesn't matter whether they're true or not. Anything they can do to try to hurt my cause and to try to call me a liar for whatever reason they'll come up with, whether it's true or not.
Second, is that other students are being recorded at the same time. When you're recording a classroom, you're not just recording what the teacher is saying. If there's a question asked, you're recording that person as well. Has that person given permission to be recorded?
I think that the students in the classroom do have the right to their privacy. I would like them to remember that they are saying something in front of 20 other students and a public school teacher. But I think that when the cause is just and something has to be done, it's more important that you do it.
In all honesty, I do feel betrayed. I felt in the classroom that this was a student that loved history. If I had thought that I was hurting his feelings or stepping on his toes in any way, of course, end of discussion.
This I think everybody will like even more. Later on, a few months later, the teacher finally said something public. He wrote something in our local paper, it's called The Observer, it's our local paper in Kearney, saying that he did not deny anything in that meeting. And that obviously kind of indirectly accuses me of not telling the truth to the public. So at the next board meeting, I had to reveal the fact that I had recorded the meeting too.
What you find about teachers, and we've represented a lot of teachers and a lot of students on both sides, is that when teachers are pressed, they will probably not tell the truth.
One thing that I am concerned about is the idea that I lied. I didn't lie. I don't believe at all that I lied.
If you reject that, you belong in hell.
Well, I don't, I never said that. Now, if you use the word belong here. Mm-hmm. I didn't say that. You know how I know I don't say that? I don't even say that outside of the classroom. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say it in the classroom. You reject that. You belong in that. Now, in that classroom, almost a month earlier, I didn't take copious notes on what I said. I didn't study those notes for a month to be prepared for this meeting. I certainly didn't record the statements that I made in that class. I didn't have any of these advantages. And I honestly could not remember saying it that way. I know we had talked about salvation, we had talked about heaven and hell. It was all in response to students' questions, especially Matthew's. But this statement was characterized as if I told the class they belonged in hell, or I heard it as whether I had told Matthew he belonged in hell.
The teacher, Mr. Baskevich, denied making almost all the statements that he did make in class. These are CDs. I've been recording the class. And I promise you that everything that I have said here is true. He said that he feels like he's been set up.
I feel like I've been deliberately set up.
He talked about how he's the only one that makes money. He could lose his job It's all my fault. How dare you? I thought you were my friend.
Like I said, I thought we had a relationship. You sat right in front of my desk. You were there every day after class. I was hurt by it more than anything else. And again, look what's at stake. My career could be stymied.
The reason I did this was because I did not feel like I could trust you. Don't get me wrong, Mr. Piscavage. I am.
And like I said, I'm hurt more than anything.
I know.
No, you don't know.
I do.
Okay, I care about you, but you have no idea.
Well, to be honest with you, Mr. Piscavage, I'm truly sorry. I have to do this.
Might have been the last thing that was said between me and Mr. Piscavage. Mr. Piscavage said, well...
You know, you got the big fish. You know, you're trying to hurt somebody that, you know, maybe you are an atheist. You got the big Christian guy that's a teacher, known and loved for 15 years, and I brought him down. That's my gut feel.
I felt terrible. You know, really bad headaches about what happened, and I did feel bad for him. I felt terrible.
Afterwards, it was reported in the media that I had borne false witness, that I was a liar, and it was an effort to make me seem like a hypocrite.
There's about 2,000 people that go to that school, and he was against practically every single one of them, teachers included.
He coaches, he doesn't talk about it a lot. And I was in one of his classrooms with him one time, and he wasn't talking about it a lot. He would never come on the topic about religion without being asked a question or anything.
I think that kid's just looking for attention.
It was hard because, you know, this wasn't just a few kids that were bothering me. This is a school-wide thing, and still is. People started yelling things out during class, in the hallways. I turned on, you know, a television station or something, and I see the students that I was talking to right after class saying he went out of line. I'm watching TV, and these exact same students are saying, oh, Mr. Piscavage never went out of line. He never pushed his religion on anybody else. You know, these are people that I always thought were my friends. I mean, they were in that class, and they not only said he didn't push his religion on anybody, but they said he didn't say the things that people are claiming he did, even though there's evidence. It's on the recordings. During all the time I've been harassed and intimidated and bullied, you've done almost nothing to protect me. Just the opposite. It appears that you went out of your way to make it look like I was the one who had done something wrong.
What we didn't say in that report is he's actually had death threats against him, and the reaction of the community largely against him has been something that the family is quite surprised by.
The administration, you know, claims that we've done everything we could so far in order to deal with the situation, but they haven't even made it public that what I did was right. So how can you even expect the students to begin to understand the situation?
I don't even understand why someone in administration at the school hasn't made some sort of an announcement and said something along the lines of, we protect our teachers, we also protect our students, and if I hear he's being harassed and stuff, and if I hear anything, or if any one of you does something like that, you're going to have to answer to me. I will not allow that in my school. And I don't see why someone wouldn't want to say that.
This is the very first interview that I've given, and the reason why I didn't speak out sooner, actually there's a couple of reasons. First and foremost, when something like this hits, the advice that you get from attorneys is be quiet. I've been living in this town all of my life. I'm a product of the Kearney school system. I'm a product of this town. I'm a native son of this town. I think it would make more of an impact if I didn't speak, if I allowed the town to speak. Jesus Christ is my example, and he was silent before his accusers.
I live here in this country for about 17 years. I'm married to David for about 14, in a couple of months. We have 4 children. David, he's going to be 12. Jonathan's just turned 10. Rebecca is 6, and Hannah's 3. I'm going to be homeschooling Rebecca this year. I'm going to start with her with first grade. I homeschooled the boys until last year.
You went like this. Who did that? And what's his name? God, right?
We wanted to make sure that they have the foundation. We wanted to know that they know what's wrong and right, but from our point of view, not from somebody else's point of view. We did not hide anything from them because I don't think it's right to hide it because the world out there could be pretty cruel. The people that are accusing him of these things didn't even know the kind of person that he really is.
You want to come inside?
To them, it's a natural thing. They know who's his, the kind of person that their dad is. We try not to let things affect us at home. We live our lives the way we're supposed to. We can't let everything that's out there and what people think and what people say to affect us because we got to continue to live.
Dave thinks he has to save their souls. And not only save their souls, save the world.
I believe there's a certain amount of tension between the way that we're expected to teach in a public school and what our faith dictates to us. And it can be a struggle, as I've learned this past year. Again, it's not my intention to come into a class and convert them to Christianity and salvation in Jesus Christ, although I do have that command from Scripture. It doesn't say explicitly, come into your classroom and do that. The same scriptures also tell me that I'm to obey the authorities that are in place over me.
I don't think it's close. I think the mission to evangelize is what it's about for him.
This is why we need to evangelize. James 4:17 says this, "He that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin." Let me give you an illustration I've used with the youth. What kind of person would you be if you stumbled on the cure for cancer and you put it in a box and locked it away in your closet in case one day you got cancer? What kind of person would you be?
Logically, you can't argue with Dave if you accept the notion that he knows the truth. Because I guess if I know the cure for cancer, I should spread the word.
As a minister, you have some insight as to why maybe it happens that way? I mean, I have my opinion.
What I see happening and what I've read is that they're basing their opinion on whether they like someone or not. And it seems that Mr. Piskevich is an incredibly popular teacher, and many of them don't like you, and so it's easy to then deduce that you would, of course, do things that are wrong.
I think that there were a decent amount of people in the school that thought I was a troublemaker, but not a lot.
But to challenge authority when the authority is wrong, in my opinion, is actually something that's good, and so therefore being quote-unquote a troublemaker is a good thing.
He's always very polite about it and very nice about it, but he will say what he feels is correct, and that, so he's not one of those kids who will just mouth off at a teacher or something like that. It's just...
Yeah, but, at the same time, I can't expect everybody to be like me, people make mistakes all the time, No, it's true. Yeah.
You gotta be careful what you say there, young fella.
No,
Hi, I'm Mark Barron. Good morning. Welcome to On Location's tour of Sopranos locations. We'll have a little fun poking fun at Jersey, but to be fair, Jersey actually has quite a bit of farmland. It has about 120 miles of beaches and was recently named as the 5th best state in the U.S. to live in. Welcome to Jersey. All right, we're going to go for a walk now. We are in downtown Soprano Land. This is the town of Kearny, New Jersey. We're going to walk through a whole cluster of locations. Anyone know where we're looking at across the street? The pork store, Satriale's, the brown building. Now, everything you would normally see on the building and in the building that made it look like a pork store, that was called set dressing. This is primarily a Scottish and Irish neighborhood. That green building is the Irish American Association, except when they film here. Then they're paid $250 to put out an Italian flag and become the Italian American Association.
One of our youth activities this year was to go to the Kearney Fireworks Show and hand out gospel tracts along with a patriotic wristband. We view it as part of our role in fulfilling the Great Commission, spreading the gospel. And as I look out over that crowd and you have all those thousands of people in the field, you're looking at a lot of lost people. If they're unreached, the consequences could be eternal.
Daddy, it looks like there's fire coming out of the ground.
Yeah, it's little launchers for the fireworks.
My family has raised me in all different kinds of ideas. I've attended Christian services, I've attended Jewish services, I've attended Buddhist services, I've been to ethical culture societies, humanist societies.
And Matthew, I am very proud to present on behalf of the Council for Secular Humanism.
I'm so hungry.
I know, I'm hungry too.
I can't lose sleep over people's other belief systems. When they start commingling them, then you have an issue. If they don't know the difference between the two, I got a problem. Get them out of the classroom. Like this guy who was saying that Noah had dinosaurs. Oh, your guy. Sorry.
Yeah, right. My guy. Yeah.
Your guy. He's your guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's how I feel. All right, thanks for your question. Good.
Yeah, unfortunately, he couldn't make it today.
Oh,
So thanks
all right.
a lot.
Okay, good. So I hope it all works out for you. Yeah, when you get the speaker.
Yeah, Chav and,
By the way, last night you look like you talk to audiences all the time. You see this guy last night? Oh no, then he gets up, and I'm saying, who is this guy? Who is this? You know, he looks kind of young to be like stupid.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hey, he just stopped there talking like you were ready to run for office. You know?
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot.
And I said, that's Matt LeClaire. Okay, so good.
I'm Matt's dad.
Oh, is that right?
I'm
Okay,
a lawyer.
okay.
I'm a lawyer. So when I saw your letter, I said, man, this is a great lawyer. But why is he saying it's not about the First Amendment? Of course it is.
Yeah.
I understand that's not your issue, but of course it's about the First Amendment. And we don't have to fight over that.
No. The religious statements
Yeah.
are surely about the First Amendment. Yeah. But him saying that Noah coexisted with dinosaurs.
We were talking about that specific part of the
Oh, no,
issue.
and
But you know what? But
so
that's
if you
also
reread
about
the letter,
the First Amendment.
If you reread the letter,
Okay.
I ignored all of the statements about Jesus, heaven, hell, all I said was, if he believes that Noah coexisted with dinosaurs and the Big Bang, then he is ignorant and scientifically illiterate, and such people should not be welcomed among the ranks of teachers.
I worry a little bit that the younger generation, I see it among some of my students, may not all be as sensitive to these issues of church-state relation as people in my generation and the next generation were. So I'm very encouraged that if you're any representative notion of what young people are about, we have nothing to worry about. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Hi.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
So, what are you doing now?
Starting to apply to college.
Where?
Well, I'm thinking of NYU. I'm thinking of basically staying generally around here somewhere, and maybe Boston University. So I'm trying to stay near here. But
well, if you end up in Boston, make sure you come by and say hello.
To Matt, changing the world one school district at a time.
Thanks.
Congratulations on all this.
Thanks so much.
All right, good. Continued good luck.
Yep.
This is not the end of this. You realize.
And after this happened, I completely never saw him. He was always gone because he was so preoccupied trying to get the word out.
Hello, Matthew. Welcome back to WNYC.
Hi, thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
And what class are you missing right now?
Nothing actually. I'm on my lunch, so you got me at a good time.
Oh, that's good. And what school is it again?
Kearney High School.
Public high school.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have him in the studio with us tonight to talk a little more about his story. Matthew LeClaire, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, Arnell.
We are joined live in the studios of WBAI by Matthew LeClaire. You've probably been reading about Matthew LeClaire. A very interesting article was written in the New York Times about an incident that happened in Kearney High School.
This would not have been a big story whatsoever if somebody along the line in the chain of command would have done something right.
The good thing about high school is that it ends.
And you know, our next guest is going to be talking about the brand new New Jersey Hall of Fame. So who knows? With the start that you're off to, you may someday make it to the New Jersey Hall of Fame.
Who knows?
Matthew LeClaire, a senior at Kearney High School. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You know, I've been told by a decent amount of people that maybe I should write a book, and maybe that's my first step toward trying and getting some job that I would really like.
What does an individual do when a student asks a question or a student raises a topic? I think it's something that needs to be open for debate. How much academic freedom do you have?
Mr. Paskowitz has this bizarre view of academic freedom. Academic freedom does not mean that teachers get to teach anything they want. If they're in a history class, they get to talk about math. That's not what it's about. Academic freedom means that when a whole discipline gets together and its leaders decide that this is the appropriate way to teach a subject, that the government can't come in and say, no, we don't care what you, the discipline, thinks, we're going to do it differently. That's academic freedom. That's how it started. Academic freedom is not a license to discuss football when you're supposed to be teaching the Pythagorean theorem.
Academic freedom is the right of the teacher to teach, but it has a second component. It's the right of the student to know, to gain access to information, relevant information.
He was giving his opinion, he was asked his opinion, he said it was his opinion, and that's exactly what he did.
It wouldn't have been okay if he had just said, this is my opinion. It still wouldn't have been okay in that case because he's a public school teacher, but that wasn't even just what he said. What he basically said almost in every instance was, this is the right way and this is the only way.
It was clear to the class that these were my opinions. In fact, there are junctures that I would consider disclaimers as far as my statements in class. Is it bothering anybody that we're taking this direction? No. Okay.
There's not a way for a teacher to express his or her own religious views.
So what the courts have said basically is, it has to be relevant to the subject matter being taught. Okay. In math class, if some student says, teacher, what about, you got a question, what about hell? Okay? The teacher say it's not an appropriate subject for math class. Why don't you ask the teacher in the comparative religion class to talk about that?
This wasn't a religion class.
No, this is U.S. history.
U.S. history.
We've made basically a deal under our Constitution, and that is religion is the one subject that's so volatile, that has caused so much conflict, that we want to keep it out of government. We want to keep government out of religion. We want to keep religion out of government. And that includes the public schools.
These are 16, 17-year-olds. Some kid may walk out of the class and say, hey, maybe God did create the heavens and the earth. Maybe I'm not a glorified gorilla that can wear a dress. What is the damage in all of this?
The reason I'm at Kearney is that about a month ago, I got a phone call out of the blue from a young man named Matthew, who told me that he'd been at the center of a controversy in Kearney High School, and he gave me some of the background.
The world doesn't understand this, but believers do. Teaching Darwinism is something that's going to take people's eyes off of God, especially Jesus Christ.
Including another idea, because you'd like to have it in the curriculum for religious reasons, actually is not the way science works. Those ideas have to fight their way through, and if they win that fight, everything's fine.
Put evolution out there. Put ID out there. Put creation out there. And let people choose for themselves. The truth is going to rise to the top.
Students aren't stupid, and they immediately understand that these so-called theories, even though they have no scientific support, come from the religious side of the spectrum. What that makes them think is that evolution is to be understood as an atheistic theory. In fact, evolution is a non-theistic theory. Like everything else in science, it says nothing pro or con about the existence of God.
Explain evolution from the primordial soup to how I got here today in my limo.
How about if we crawl? Basically, what evolution tells us is that we are united, we're put together in a fabric of life with every other living thing on this planet. Up until about, 200-300 years ago, people thought that life on Earth had never changed. But they immediately became aware at the end of the 17th and 18th century that life had changed. And the process of change, explaining that, has been one of biology's biggest projects for the last 150 years. And that explanation is evolution.
What I don't understand is why evolution people don't understand why intelligent design just seems easier.
Oh.
You know, I mean, that's complicated. Occam's razor says the easiest argument's probably the best one. God made me. You're a Catholic.
Yes, sir.
I am a Catholic also. Have you forgot the creed? Jesus, through him all things were made.
For us men and for our salvation. I remember all this very well.
Okay.
But there's
so
also...
don't you see a conflict there? You got to choose.
And endorsing something like evolution and ignoring creation, you do grow cold and empty. You grow cold to people with disabilities. You grow cold to an afterlife. There is no afterlife. Why not do what you want? Why not steal? Why not, assault people? Why not just live selflessly?
I mean, do you think people should be sheltered from issues like this at your age in high schools, public high schools?
One of the leading advocates of intelligent design was forced to admit under oath at the Dover trial that in the 11 years since he published a book arguing for intelligent design and something he calls irreducible complexity, he hadn't been able to produce a single piece of scientific work, a single experiment or a single observation that was actually publishable and supported this idea.
People don't teach it because no one cares anymore, because just people say, oh, evolution is a fact, you just wipe the rest out. You don't have to know about that. It's not true. Just believe in my word.
I passionately believe that what belongs in the science classroom is science and not religion. And if you bring religion in and pretend, and this is especially dangerous, that religion is a scientific subject, which it's not, that profanes both science and religion. It's not good for education, and it creates needless conflict.
And it may be against the law to teach creationism as fact, but that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Big Bang.
Yeah.
Take us through it.
Right now, the universe is expanding and getting
that's
cooler.
good.
You run the clock back, it was smaller yesterday than it is today, and hotter. And you keep doing that, there's a point where the whole universe was in one spot at the same time. That was 13.7 billion years ago.
Okay.
And it was extremely hot, so hot that matter was this cloud of energy.
Okay.
And it rapidly expanded.
Okay.
Out of which the particles formed. The forces revealed themselves. Stars, the first stars formed, galaxies took shape, the elements formed, out of which solar systems like ours were spawned.
That's incredible. And that's a greater miracle than there being a God with intelligence speaking the universe into existence. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm small potatoes. I'm just a lowly little history teacher in Kearney, New Jersey. I'm a youth pastor. I don't claim to be anything great. I don't write in academic journals or anything like that. But a very, very small statement that I made gained me the ire of the director of the Hayden Planetarium. I'm not even a science teacher. I'm a history teacher. I'd like to just put my statement up first. This involved the Big Bang. And I was asked how I felt about it, and I said the Big Bang theory is there was nothing out there, there was no matter, but yet nothing exploded and created something. Let me give you a clue, guys. If there's nothing, it can't explode. An explosion takes something that's highly ordered, everything is in its place, and it breaks it down to chaos, breaks it down to disorder. And I said, you guys are not alone, because there's not an individual in all of recorded history that has ever seen an explosion create order. Until you get to graduate school. And then you put on one of those little white lab coats, and all of a sudden it makes sense. You saw my quote. Let me show you the reaction to it. This case is not about the need to separate church and state. It's about the need to separate ignorant, scientifically illiterate people from the ranks of school teachers.
That's so much prejudice, like you prejudge someone, oh, he doesn't have a PhD in this and this and that, so he can't have a good argument with me. He's just scientifically illiterate,
Do you think Mr. Tyson felt threatened? I just rocked his worldview. From room 319 in Kearney High School, I rocked his world without intending it. Sorry, Neil, okay? But this is just a small amount of the suppression that I felt by comparison to real scientists in the field. But the director of the Hayden Planetarium felt the need to come out against a high school history teacher in a church-state issue. That's very telling. That's very telling.
Well, we don't know. What kind of a fact is it if you don't know?
That's one thing that I feel comfortable telling people when they ask me, well, then what's the answer? I can say, I don't know.
Right, and I'm happy about it.
You know, I kind of believe in the Big Bang. I think it happened like this. God spoke and bang! It happened.
That day, there were no constitutional rights violated. Matthew was educated that day.
Now, I have a high regard for the Constitution, and I think it ought to be interpreted in a strict constructionist way. We ought to get into the minds of the founders, and we ought to look at their notes and interpret it in light of what they had intended. But we've gotten away from that. We really have.
Mr. Paskowitz has a view of the Constitution which is simply not the law of the United States. He has every right to promote it, debate about it, go on cable television and discuss it, but he doesn't have the right to assert that he's right and the Supreme Court just is confused. The Supreme Court's not confused about some of these core issues. Teachers cannot become evangelists. They cannot proselytize in class. You can't have government-sponsored prayer. You can't teach creationism, Bible creationism, whatever you call it, in a science class.
I don't believe that my religious beliefs trump the Constitution, but I do believe that the Word of God does. And of course, the Word of God has some pretty explicit things to say about obeying government authorities as well.
Many people, not just the so-called religious right, sometimes says it answers to a higher authority. Elected officials, though, take an oath to the Constitution, not to the Bible, not to any other holy scripture, and their obligation is to consider the Constitution the highest authority under which they govern.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God?
So help me God.
In our Constitution, you don't find the words separation of church and state collectively, together, or individually.
Let's no one ever forget that the separation of church and state was not designed by people like Jefferson. It was originally designed by people like Roger Williams, Baptist theologians, in order to protect the garden from the wilderness, the garden being the church, the wilderness being government. The dangers were of the government intruding into religion. And when you knock down that wall of separation, as so many Christian fundamentalists are trying to do today, the greatest risk is that the government will intrude into religion, corrupt religion. The other risk is that religion will deny individual citizens freedom of conscience.
The Constitution is a purely secular document, never mentions God, specifically because it was supposed to be clear that this was a secular government, a government not hostile to religion, but a government that had no religious functions at all.
Religious neutrality is one thing, but hostility to Christianity is quite another. And what I find is that this neutrality often means the exclusion of Christianity in the public square. And I think that my particular case illustrates that.
Christians are not being persecuted in America. The problem is some people think that if the government doesn't support their religion or their view of Christianity, then the government is hostile. It's usually just neutral, and that's the way it ought to be. There is no war against Christianity. There's no war against Christmas. There's no war against religion in America. This is the most deeply religious Western country that you can find. And there's a reason, I think. It's because people in America choose to be religious. They're not forced to be.
The Constitution doesn't mention God or Creator in it, but the Declaration of Independence does.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The Declaration of Independence is being used by many fundamentalist Christians today as a kind of baptismal certificate for America, but it's a phony charge. Yes, it mentions God and providence. It doesn't mention Jesus. It's the first major governmental instrument that didn't mention Jesus. It didn't mention the Bible. We have to remember that everybody in 1776 believed in God. There were no atheists. Thomas Paine believed in God. They just didn't believe that God spoke to human beings or wrote the Bible or created Christianity or had anything to do with Judaism or Islam.
We take God out of the equation. In time, I fear what kind of government we could have. Here in the United States, when our God-given rights are violated, we have a right to rebel. That may be through the ballot box. In an extreme case, it might be the way that our founding fathers did.
Whether he's part of the movement formally or not, I don't know, but there's a very powerful movement in this country right now called dominionism. And these people believe that because the majority of people in the United States are Christian, that the Christians have the right to have dominion over everyone else.
I do think we ought to be unified around a set of values that are essentially Judeo-Christian, the values that our founders had.
John Adams and a unanimous Senate approved a treaty which said, "We are in no sense a Christian nation. Don't fight us Muslims against Christians. We are not a Christian nation."
The Founding Fathers did base not only the Declaration of Independence, but the constitutional protections on what they thought was right and wrong. And what they thought was right and wrong came from the Ten Commandments, which is Judeo-Christian philosophy. That is beyond a reasonable doubt.
We were a nation of a majority of Protestants, not only Christians. You know, it so amuses me when the Pat Buchanans of the world say we're a Christian nation. Pat Buchanan's a Catholic. And if we were anything, we were the most virulently anti-Catholic nation in history. We were founded on principles of rejecting Catholicism. Adams and Jefferson wrote to each other, "If only we could keep the swarms of Jesuits out." No nation has ever been free which has had Catholics among them or Catholic priests among them. So if we are a nation of Christians, we are a nation of Anglo-Saxon Protestant Christians, not of Catholics and not of Jews. We are not a Judeo-Christian nation in any sense.
I don't see the danger in promoting, let's say, the Ten Commandments. How could things like "thou shalt not kill" be psychologically damaging to a student? Many of them are universal values embraced by all of the major faiths.
Most people just know the 10 bumper stickers, and they don't realize that the first 5 of the 10 Commandments are completely theological. They have no place in civic society. "I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other God before thee. 6 days shall you work, on the 7th shall you rest. The sins of the father shall be inflicted." Those have no place in civic society.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thank you for watching us tonight. The bad teaching stops here.
Bill O'Reilly went on national television in front of millions of people without knowing me, without finding out anything about what I said, and made me appear to be someone who bullies students, who is not teaching the curriculum, who is pushing what he called left-wing propaganda.
This man, Dr. James Corbett, has been filling his history classroom at Capistrano Valley High in California with far-left propaganda for 19 years. As we told you last night, Corbett is now being sued for religious intolerance for saying stuff like this.
Are you the peasants to oppose something that is in their best interests? Religion! You have to have something that is irrational to counter that rational thought. When you put on your Jesus glasses, you can't see the truth.
That was actually during a discussion of Joseph II, the Austrian emperor. And he had tried to free the serfs, and he had tried to distribute land owned by the Catholic Church, the monasteries, to the peasants. But the church took the peasants and propagandized them on Sundays and turned the peasants against the emperor when the emperor had their best interests at heart. In effect, I said, the church put Jesus glasses on the peasants and made the peasants think the emperor was evil, when in fact the emperor did have their best interests at heart.
Now, last night, 16-year-old Chad Farnan was brave enough to come on The Factor and expose his teacher, Corbett. Chad and his family are suing the school district for promoting religious intolerance, which is against the Constitution.
I'd say God showed me to pursue Dr. Corbett because really he's been teaching for so long and no one's done anything, and all these kids have, like, basically they're starting to be brainwashed by him, and God showed me that I need to take a stand for what's right and do what's right and pursue Him.
I've never had a formal complaint lodged against me in 20 years. Actually, 20 years at Capo and the 15 years before that, teaching at the university level, never have I had a complaint.
Okay, so you just basically brought the tapes to Mr. Tyler and other attorneys. You didn't go yourself. And I understand you're a sophomore in high school.
They walked in with 2 reporters trailing them and dropped this lawsuit on his desk, on the principal's desk, left that office and went directly to a radio station.
I'd say he's been portrayed pretty good. It sounds like he's the bad guy in most places, so that's how he sounds.
You know, I have to watch this because I get emotional about some of this thing. I've been teaching 35 years. The idea, here at the end of my career, the idea that I could be held up in the national press as somebody who hurts kids is so deeply hurtful to me, I can't explain it. It hurts a lot.
So if you know of indoctrination in public schools, please let us know. No longer are loony teachers going to get a pass. They'll be dealt with here if they violate the rights of students.
And that's the news. That's not O'Reilly and Hannity. Those people are just liars.
Very nice.
I'm fairly confident one of the reasons that Bill O'Reilly invited Chad onto his show is because one of the things on the tape that I said was that Bill O'Reilly's a liar.
And if this guy Corbett wants to come on and talk to me, a liar, he's welcome to do so. We do not expect that to happen.
And frankly, he just proved it with that, because he may have said that he invited me onto his show, but nobody from his show ever contacted me. So not only did I say he's a liar then, I say he's a liar now.
You can't just have a bright line rule and say you can never speak about religion. You can't do that.
In reaction to all of the negative press that I was getting, teachers in Kearney erred on what they believed to be the side of caution and panic and actually violated students' civil rights. They didn't want to be the next guy crucified in the newspaper by a disgruntled atheist family. And these cases are horrific.
We were at lunch and we were singing a song and then we started to pray. Except the teacher came by and she said, "Hurry up and eat. You do not do that anymore." And then she left.
I'm amazed that any school in Kearney would actually do that to students. I mean, that's taking it so far. That's ridiculous. I can't believe they did that. I wish they had told me, because I would have gone out there immediately. That's crazy.
I think when all is said and done, in time, the LeClaire legacy is going to be these particular issues and how students legitimately had their rights violated.
Well, you know, a lot of people pray before they eat. It's called saying grace. And they do that out loud. Do you ever do that in school?
Not anymore. I do it in my head.
Through a series of letters, my parents tried to get you to listen and make a few simple corrections. They wouldn't have cost you a thing, and they were the right thing to do. But you refused. You wouldn't even give us the courtesy of a phone call. You, Mr. Lindenfelser, said it wasn't a big deal.
In accordance with Chapter 231.
All right, we have a meeting tonight to discuss the settlement in the matter of Matthew LeClaire and Mr. and Mrs. LeClaire. Some of the key terms of the agreement will be to settle the matter in full, some stipulations there. But the key terms, really, the meat of the agreement is that the board will bring in the Anti-Defamation League to address constitutional issues and Big Bang issues and creation versus evolution issues with our teachers and with the students. The board wishes to publicly express their appreciation to Matthew LeClaire for his efforts in bringing to the school board's attention a serious situation in the Kearney schools regarding the constitutional mandate of the separation of church and state. Because of
That was painful for me to endure. To make Matthew a hero for his involvement in all of this at my expense. And so that, that aspect of the settlement, I was disappointed with.
The board commends Matthew LeClaire for his courage and integrity in taking the responsibilities of citizenship seriously and acting accordingly. The resolution has passed. The matter is now settled.
I don't think I'll be booed at graduation. If he wanted to come over and shake my hand, I'd be very curious as to why.
Well, at least we come to the end of the line.
That was really tough standing up there, I have to say, because I remember the superintendent, Robert Mooney, was sitting in one of those chairs. And I wasn't sure what they were going to give me in the diploma. I thought maybe they'd slip a little note saying bye or, kick me out at the end.
Matthew and I were about 20 feet away where our eyes caught, but yet nobody made a move.
I can't see a point in going up to him and shaking his hand.
I didn't make a move, he didn't make a move. I went on and congratulated other students that were approaching me.
And good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew LeClaire, and this is Equal Time for Free Thought. On this program, we promote and defend the socio-political philosophy called humanism.
Well, it almost feels like in school, Matthew hasn't graduated because his presence is still felt.
Today, I'll be talking with you, the listeners, about a current issue regarding my old U.S. history teacher from Kearney High School and what he's up to now. Just so you know, I'm going to be opening the phone lines a little bit later, and the number for that is 212. Well, he's at it again. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I read in the Kearney High School newspaper about the Alpha and Omega Club, a Christian club that was formed a year after the story came out, whose advisor is none other than Mr. Paskevich himself. What really caught my eye was that the Alpha and Omega Club was planning a trip to the Creation Museum. Now, for those of you who don't know much about the Creation Museum in Petersburg, Kentucky, its slogan is, "Prepare to believe." One of their main topics is claiming that dinosaurs coexisted with humans. They even have a dinosaur with a saddle on it so people can take photographs. They have a Noah's Ark exhibit, including dinosaurs, of course. And of course, because it's also during school, they needed an educational rationale. And in this teacher's own handwriting, he said the educational rationale for the trip was, students will be exposed to the science behind creationism.
Perhaps he would be right if this was a science class doing that, or even my history class. But this is a student-sponsored club. It falls into an entirely different category.
Yet again, no one in the school attempted to stop this, or even consider it a problem. It took me, a 19-year-old college student who doesn't even go to the school anymore, to spot it and do something about it within the course of a few days.
I feel that I am being harassed. I don't feel that I'm being harassed by the administration of Kearney High School or by the school board, but I do feel that there is harassment on the part of the LeClairs.
I'm almost 100% sure it's not just my school. I would expect that this is going on all over the country.
It was in the New York Times. It was in local papers. It was on CNN. It's all over the internet. It's on YouTube. That's how the gospel spreads.